Uh-oh. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats are in full-blown panic mode as their George Soros-backed candidates get rejected one by one. The Democrats' socialist nightmare has been unleashed in New York City, the beating heart of America, trying its best to stop from bleeding out. And the wounds inflicted and caused by the Democrats, they're the ones holding the knife, not even realizing just how badly they are hurting their own party, their brand, their cause, their message, and all the people turning their backs on these old up donkeys, and how now, having already fled the party and joined the common sense Republicans, with their next move being even more permanent after packing up and moving down to Florida. And I want you all to have a look at this and listen. And so, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, because what you're about to hear from Megyn Kelly isn't just another headline. It's a seismic shift straight from the pages of the New York Times itself. And yes, you heard that right. The gray lady, the Democrats' own printed propagandist, is sounding the alarm on a voter registration catastrophe that's bleeding the party dry. And I'm not surprised, really. I mean, we're talking about 4.5 million voter swings to Republicans since 2020, Democrats hemorrhaging ground in all 30 states that track party registration, battlegrounds like North Carolina, and Republicans have nearly wiped out the Dems' edge in any perceivable and meaningful way. Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, all eroding. And for the first time since Trump's first term, more new voters are choosing Republican. And I can't say that I blame them, but it is rare that we hear any sort of truth out of the legacy media. And this ain't spin. This is their data. This is their crisis, their panic. Watch or listen as Megyn Kelly breaks it down with the precision of a surgeon and the fire of someone who sees the writing on the wall. These old donkeys are on life support, and the exodus to common sense conservatism is coming down like a Category 5 hurricane, delivering crashing waves. It's a stampede, folks. Check it out. Here's Megyn Kelly, unfiltered and unrelenting. Oh, and a quick heads up, or better yet, clarification, just so we're all on the same page. And trust me, folks, this is high praise for Megyn Kelly. I'm not throwing any shade, but when I called the New York Times the Gray Lady, that's just an old school nickname for the paper itself. Picture a grand, no-frills matriarch of journalism, dressed in black and white newsprint, always proper, always serious, but not so much as of late, really. I mean, it's been called that for probably over a century now, but far longer, much longer than I've been alive. So the punchline here is that even the Gray Lady, the Democrats' favorite source, the one they quote like gospel, is now blaring the alarm on their own voter collapse. This isn't Fox. This isn't Newsmax. This isn't The Hill or Breitbart or DeVory or Benny Johnson. This is their paper, their data, admitting the party's in freefall. And Megyn Kelly shines a spotlight on the truth, no filter and no mercy. The ones who know the reference are probably already laughing at it and laughing at me for explaining it. But for the ones just learning it, welcome to the club. Either way, you're about to see a masterclass in cutting through the noise and saying, "I told you so" to these dumbass Democrats. All right, now let's roll the clip.
New York Times piece, Out of Power. This hit today by Shane Goldmacher with Jonah Smith, and is going on about the voter registration crisis that the Democrats are facing. The subhead is, "The party is bleeding support beyond the ballot box," according to a new analysis. And the highlights of this thing show as follows. While there are still more Democrats registered nationwide than Republicans, though they point out that's simply because in states like California, you can register by party, whereas in a lot of red states, you can't. So that's even questionable. They say, nonetheless, for the first time since 2018, more new voters nationwide chose to be Republicans than Democrats last year. Of the 30 states that track voter registration by political party, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in every single one between 2020 and 2024, and often by a lot. That 4-year swing toward the Republicans adds up to 4.5 million voters, a deep political hole that could take years for Democrats to climb out from. It goes on to say all 4 presidential battleground states covered by the Times analysis, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, all of them showed significant Democratic erosion. In North Carolina, Republicans erased roughly 95% of the registration advantage that Democrats held in the fall of 2020.
I'm going to run through 4 stories that are in the news today that I think are really bad for Democrats. I'm not here to dump on the Democrats, but there's no one in the Democratic Party dealing with
I'll do it for you.
There's no one in the Democratic Party dealing with these 4 problems. And I'm telling you, like, the clock's ticking. All right. So first, number 1 is a New York Times story. Very good job. 2 years too late. But the New York Times went and looked at, not every state has voter registration by party, but they looked at every state that has voter registration by party. And in literally every one, it's a crisis for the Democrats. The Republican registration is going up, Democrats going down. There's some party switchers. There's some people moving from into the state and registering for the first time. Headline, the Democratic Party faces a voter registration crisis. That headline understates the case. If you're concerned about your party, if you're a Democrat, read the piece. It is frightening. And there's nothing in there that says how they're going to solve it. What it says is there's all these rich people and these outside groups with lots of donors trying to figure out who the money should go to. There's no Democratic Party plan to deal with this.
New voter registration analysis that appeared in the New York Times this week signals, there's only one way to say it, pretty bad news for the Democratic Party. It found Democrats lost ground to Republicans between the 2020 and 2024 elections in all 30 states that track voter registration by party.
The Democratic Party may lie in voter registration data. As national correspondent Matt Gelka explains, the alarm bells could be ringing in a majority of states around the country.
New data reported by the New York Times could be a major warning sign for the Democratic Party. Voter registration data showed a party that is rapidly losing voters in every state that tracks registration by political party. From 2020 to 2024, the data showed a 4.5 million voter swing from Democrat to Republican in the 30 states tracking party affiliations, with Dems losing 2.1 million registered voters and Republicans gaining 2.4 million.
The Democratic Party faces a voter registration crisis. That's the new headline from the New York Times, with plenty of data to back it up. The Times reports that of the 30 states that track voter registration by political party, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in every single one between the 2020 and 2024 elections. And often they lost it by a lot. That 4-year swing toward Republicans adds up to 4.5 million voters, a deep political hole that could take years for Democrats to climb out of. And this decline is happening across the board. According to the Times still, Democrats are losing ground with new voters. For the first time since 2018, more new voters nationwide chose to be Republicans than Democrats last year, adding that they're losing ground in battleground states like North Carolina, where Republicans erased roughly 95% of the registration advantage that Democrats held in the fall of 2020. Democrats are also losing ground with young voters. In 2018, nearly 2/3 of new registrants under 45 who had picked one of the 2 major parties were Democrats. In 2024, Republicans were an outright majority. And the gender gap is also a growing problem for Democrats. The Times analysis shows the Republican strength among men is far outpacing the Democratic edge with women.
Democrats for years and years now have faced a branding problem, a messaging problem that has just led to people not only continuing their loyalty, but especially with younger voters, them choosing the other team.
So from 2020 to 2024, Christian, Democrats lost 2.1 million registered voters, and Republicans gained 2.4. Even I'm good enough at math to know that is a delta of 4.5 million voters, and the trend lines do not appear to be reversing. If anything, this calendar year, the New York Times said those trends are continuing.
Look, it's
you categorize that as yikes.
I would categorize that as a come to Jesus moment for the Democratic Party.
Come to Jesus is right. And I've noticed that there's been a growing trend of more of you watching my videos and choosing to subscribe. Telling me in the comments that you really like my videos and how American and patriotic they are. Plus, an overwhelming majority of my subscribers and regular viewers are seniors over the age of 65. This video is sponsored by Chapter, and they have been absolutely great. And we've been working together for months now. And right now is AEP. So until December 7, free Medicare help is not only available, but it's also critical. On average, a quick 20-minute chat after calling the number that you guys see on your screen has saved people, on average, $1,100. And with so many plans, options, and changes coming in 2026, calling Chapter leaves you with a warm feeling and peace of mind. Call them at 270-467-2426 and share them with your friends, family, and loved ones. There's additional information in the description if you'd like to learn more. Again, call 270-467-2426 and tell them Kevin sent you. You've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. And so, yeah, the Dems are in disarray. Voter registration woes signal trouble as Republicans gain 2.3 million. I mean, this is something you just can't ignore if you're Democrats, but I think they are actually, or at least they have no way of even trying to fix one of their biggest problems. It's a crisis for Democrats with state Democrat voter registration down in literally every one. The left faces a serious voter registration crisis as the party affiliations shift toward GOP due to woke bullshit and failures on top of failures after failure after failure. More lies. Oh, and pointless government shutdowns that, mind you, Democrats have voted to keep the government closed for the 13th time. But in all fairness, one Republican voted no. And that was Rand Paul, of course. And I do think it's worth mentioning how Duckworth likes to pull her vet card all the time, but here she is voting against paying the military as she cashes her own paycheck. But more on that to come. And we'll pick back up on the New York Times analysis that everyone's talking about and the voter registration blow to Democrats that it reveals. Now, I want to shine a little bit of a light on perhaps the Democrats' biggest flaws right now, and that's this whole socialist and communist and, more importantly, Islamic push. And as you can see here, Muslims are now declaring that Las Vegas is no longer Sin City and that they've renamed it Halal City. And if Americans don't wake up to the spread of Islam, it will end up worse than Europe if we don't stop it now. I saw this post earlier that says Islamic ideology is not compatible with America's Bill of Rights and Constitution. But the term is called Islamification. And I want you all to take a look at this. The Boston Police Department is actively reaching out to its growing Islamic community to recruit Islamic police officers to enforce the laws and social norms in predominantly Muslim neighborhoods. This is crazy, y'all. Totally insane. Now, I'm going to ask you, do me a favor, put a 1 in the chat or down in the comments if you think hijab, is it hijab wearing, pistol packing cops wrapped up, enforcing Sharia law, globalizing the Intifada, a police force of who knows, hidden behind headscarves. If you think it's a terrible idea, just drop a 1. And if you're in Boston or any other city that's pushing for this, yeah, please let me know that too. I mean, the Boston PD is already rather questionable right now, considering this ex-post shares a letter from Karen Reed's attorney, Alan Jackson, to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, accusing Police Commissioner Michael Cox of perjuring himself by denying involvement in Reed's 2024 murder trial of Officer John O'Keefe, despite evidence of his meetings with key witness Kelly Dever. This is part of the Karen Reed case, which ended in her acquittal in June amid claims of a police cover-up and Commissioner Cox's alleged false testimony under oath, highlighting ongoing scrutiny of Boston PD leadership, supported by FBI email timelines showing his awareness of the investigation. Jackson demands Cox's immediate addition to the Brady list for credibility issues and a post-commission disciplinary review for dishonesty. And this just further emphasizes the lack of public trust over political considerations and law enforcement accountability, especially in Boston, and led by these Democrats. I mean, I can't blame them, but it's not just Boston, and it certainly isn't just New York either, even though these two cities are hot on the map right now and lighting the entire internet up and going viral. But we mustn't ignore Seattle, Washington, because there are several others. More major American cities are about to elect Muslim communists as mayor. This is absolutely unreal. And I want you guys to check this out in Minneapolis, too, with Omar Fateh. And they're following in the footsteps of NYC with Zohran Mamdani. But ladies and gentlemen, the consequences of being legally invaded are going to absolutely devastate. These cities are dooming themselves. Here, watch.
About that. Free lawyers for illegal immigrants, and there's more where that came from. But he's not the only one. Across the country, there are more. Two more examples. In Minneapolis, Omar Fateh is running. He wants to fund non-police programs, keep homeless encampments, and stabilize rent. You hear that a lot from the Socialists, and you can understand why. Rents are high. This one's interesting. In Seattle, Katie Wilson is running for Seattle mayor. She wants a bond for affordable housing. She wants to install city-owned solar panels and fund alternative crisis responses. She lives in a 600-square-foot apartment that she rents with her husband, and they have a small child there. She's running against another Democrat who is like, wait, I'm diverse. I've made incredible gains through my own hard work. But she is in the lead. Josh Krasher is the editor-in-chief of Jewish Insider, one of our political analysts.
Sorry about that, y'all. Sorry about that. Katie Wilson in Seattle isn't Muslim. At least I don't think. But she is on track to beat the incumbent Bruce Harrell after having already won nearly 51% of the vote in the August primary. Now, I wonder if she's being propped up and paid for by George Soros, too.
Records have revealed that George Soros funneled $37 million to support Democrat Socialist Zohran Mamdani's campaign and marginalize Andrew Cuomo. According to those recently released records, Soros, through his Open Society Foundation, funneled the money in recent years to the Working Families Party and at least 9 other left-wing organizations that supported Mamdani's successful campaign in the New York Democrat mayoral primary. The WFP, a far-left socialist-friendly group, received $23.7 million from Soros through its nonprofit fundraising arm, then used that money to help Mamdani. An additional almost $14 million was distributed to 9 other nonprofit organizations and their fundraising entities, all of which endorsed Mamdani's campaign and supported his progressive agenda. Specific groups funded by Soros included Make the Road Action, Community Voices Heard, Move On, Jewish Voice for Peace Action, which is described as an anti-Zionist group. Other unnamed profits also received funds totaling the more than $13.9 million figure. Mamdani, who has been accused of being a Marxist and communist, won the Democrat mayoral primary by a 12-point margin over Cuomo, securing a record 565,000 votes. While Soros and his family did not directly donate to Mamdani's campaign, the Open Society Foundation's grants indirectly supported his candidacy through these organizations' advocacy and ground efforts.
So let me know what you all think about this. And the general consensus is that the Democrat Party is a terrorist organization run and funded by George Soros, and that George Soros and his son Alex Soros should be arrested, have their assets seized, and use their money to rebuild the cities they paid to destroy. And the plan is to destroy America, an attempt to undo MAGA by deploying these candidates, these Muslim communists, into each and every major U.S. city as somewhat of a backdoor approach to circumvent the White House, it seems. Some call it Islamophobia, while others call it what it is: a warning against unassimilated influences. And Fox News released a bombshell today exposing Zohran Mamdani is funded by a $2.9 million network of George Soros and Islamic activists' donors. But that's not all, because apparently records have revealed that George Soros funneled $37 million to support Democrat Socialist Zohran Mamdani's campaign. And according to those recently released records, Soros, through his Open Society Foundation, funneled the money in recent years to the Working Families Party and at least 9 other left-wing organizations that supported Mamdani's successful campaign in the New York Democrat mayoral primary. The WFP, which is a far-out left socialist-friendly group, received $23.7 million from Soros through its nonprofit funding and fundraising arm, then used that money to help Zohran Mamdani. Zohran, who has been accused of being a Marxist and communist. Meanwhile, other unnamed NGOs also received funds totaling the more than $13.9 million figure.
There are outside countries and entities trying to bolster someone who would be the mayor of the largest city in the United States. And where does this all come from? This is a socialist who, for whatever reason, is now about to become the mayor. And that reason is Democrat egos in New York. Cuomo was chased out of the governor's office for sexual harassment and killing COVID patients in nursing homes, let alone decimating New York's economy. But he decided he needed to run. And then Eric Adams himself was indicted and had flaws and issues and was not delivering. But Democrats in New York couldn't put up anybody reasonable. And so now we're staring down a socialist 34-year-old who's about to destroy New York. My only hope, I have 2. 1, he doesn't destroy it so much that we can't come back from it. And 2, whatever the political reckoning is for New York on the other side of Zohran Mamdani's win, I hope it means that Elise Stefanik becomes the governor of the state.
I mean, let's be honest. Let's be real here, folks, with ourselves. Mamdani is a loser for Democrats. I mean, he really is. And I'm convinced that Sliwa may have been included in receiving Soros funds to stay in the race, even after Adams dropped out, because all he's doing is wrecking Cuomo's chances, or better yet, really helping to improve Mamdani's chances of clinching a win. Now, I know that may be a hot take, but it is what it is. And I know I'm not the only one thinking it, but maybe just part of the few willing to say it out loud. The Democrats struggled to get their shit together, but New York should be a case study. Like I said, a warning, because heck, even other Dems like Mickey Sherrill from across the river over in New Jersey dodge questions like cowards, saying, I'm not getting involved. They squeal like pigs with eyes darting away and off camera. Here, check it out for yourself.
Do you reject Zohran Mamdani's endorsement?
I'm not getting involved in any of the New York race. I'm just focused on New Jersey.
So as Democrats hit the campaign trail, they are facing an uncomfortable question: what to say, what to do about Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani. Republican New York Congressman Mike Lawler is asking Democrats to address the issue head on. He posted this: every single Democrat running for Congress needs to be put on the record. Do you stand with Jeffries, Hochul, and Mamdani, or with the hardworking New Yorkers who want safe streets, affordable communities, and sanity back in government? There's no hiding on this one.
She'd rather talk about Donald Trump. It's kind of an amazing decision for her. But look, I think Democrats across the country are looking at this race and are horrified. John, only about 15% of the country identifies as very liberal or progressive. A lot of those people are in New York, they're in California, but guess what? They're not in New Jersey, and they're not across the middle of the country. And those are the places where Democrats have to hope to take back some seats if they want to get the majority in the House again. Mamdani is a loser for Democrats. And we're just talking now about campaigning. Wait till he's in office. Wait till some of this stuff that he's trying to do is actually put in motion. I can't imagine a worse look for Democrats.
6 years ago, shortly after I had announced I was running for assembly, a well-meaning Muslim uncle pulled me aside. He smiled softly and looked at me with care. In a quiet voice, he told me I did not have to tell people I was Muslim. His eyes kind, his beard proud, and his face heavy with the implication of the unsaid. I had not learned the lesson that he had been taught, time and again. It is the lesson that safety could only be found in the shadows of our city, that it is in those shadows alone where Muslims could embrace the fullness of our own identities, and that if we are to emerge from them, then it is in those shadows where we must leave our faith. These are lessons that so many Muslim New Yorkers have been taught again and again. And over these last few days, these are the lessons that have become the closing message of Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, and Eric Adams. Yesterday, Andrew Cuomo laughed and agreed when a radio show host said that I would cheer another 9/11. Yesterday, Eric Adams said that we can't let our city become Europe. He compared me to violent extremists, and he lied when he said that our movement seeks to burn churches and destroy communities. The day before that, Curtis Sliwa slandered me from a debate stage when he claimed that I supported global jihad. And every day, Super PAC ads imply that I am a terrorist or mock the way I eat. Push polls that ask New Yorkers questions like whether they support invented proposals to make halal mandatory, or political cartoons that represent my candidacy as an airplane hurtling towards the World Trade Center.
And by the way, one of the things that Hakeem Jeffries' endorsement kind of brings to the front right now is how can you have both the leaders of your party from New York? You have Chuck Schumer, who's the Senate Minority Leader, and Hakeem Jeffries, who's the House Minority Leader. And that's not really a great look because it kind of says to the country, all we care about is the liberal left. And now they really know that's true because the biggest city in the world, the most important city, is going to have a socialist mayor that all of these people, Chuck Schumer has not yet endorsed him, but Hakeem Jeffries has, and most of the New York officials have. I think it's an incredible fiasco for the Democrats.
Yeah, it's a tepid endorsement, you could say, from Hakeem Jeffries, but he did finally come out and endorse him.
Well, folks, even Democrats admit Mamdani's poison pill is killing their golden boys. But George Soros's deep pocket puppets, one by one, they're getting torched at the polls because their socialist stench is too toxic and far too rank and pungent for America's heartland. Only 15% of America buys this progressive fever dream, but in the Big Apple, it's really rotting the core. Democrats aren't just horrified, they're in full-blown panic mode. The streets will likely never be safe as there's absolutely zero sanity in the Zoran government. You can forget about it. Mamdani's crew will flood buses with vagrants, cap rents to bankrupt builders, and hike taxes to corporations bolt for exits heading to Texas or Florida, leaving you, possibly, or whoever's left, shortchanged New Yorkers footing the bill in a once great city, but soon to be a ghost town. This is the Democrats' reckoning. They bet on radicals like Mamdani, and now the Empire State's cracking. But there's a bright side to all of this, and that is we can work hard to make sure this disease doesn't spread further throughout the country. And so now we pick back up where we left off earlier with the conclusion to this video and solutions to the problems that the Democrats and George Soroses out there have all tried to stir up.
Wall Street Journal reports, least surprising story ever. Elon Musk is leaning away from starting a third party. Wrong headline there, guys. This is, we want, where's this? Number 106.
Just
106,
wait,
please.
That's the next bad news.
Yeah, 106. It says that Musk is not really doing anything to start a third party and that he's leaning towards Vance. I'm telling you right now, the biggest story of 2028, Patty disagrees with me about whether there'll be other candidates, but Vance is going to have $2 billion on this trajectory. Headline from the Journal, Elon Musk pledged to start a political party. He's already pumping the brakes. The billionaire has sought to maintain ties with J.D. Vance, the potential heir to Trump's MAGA political environment. I'm not predicting this will happen, but on the current trajectory, Trump will endorse Vance. He'll have no real opposition. He'll have $2 billion raised before the Democrats start their primaries and caucuses. And the Democratic Party is doing nothing to stop this. I'm not sure what they could do, but they're doing nothing. Then
I'd love to see Elon's money go up against Soros. And we already know that these two have a history. Plus, this is great news that Elon isn't trying to pull a Curtis Sliwa that only divides America further and makes it easier for slimy Democrats to win elections by default. And Trump, he even said he likes Elon. He suspects he'll always like Elon and said he's a nice guy. He's a very capable guy. And Trump, along with others, are so glad Charlie brought these two patriots back together.
Go now to that the New York Times headline. A bunch of prominent California Democrats, including Casey Wasserman, who was one of the biggest financial supporters of Hillary Clinton and of Joe Biden, are holding a fundraiser. Susan Collins to get Hollywood treatment at fundraiser featuring Democrats. Democrats hoping to retake the Senate in the midterm elections next year are targeting the seat of Susan Collins, who is seen as a moderate. And then lastly, an AP story, not breaking any huge news, but this is the most political White House of all time, at least in my career. AP, Trump moves to use the levers of presidential power to help his party in the 2026 midterms. Some of the things the AP cites would be considered standard hardball, some more than that. But the point is, again, using the White House, James Blair wakes up every day saying, what are the 50 things I need to do today to keep the House, make sure we don't lose the Senate, to position the president to raise, all this money to help Vance. This is a machine, and the DNC and its allies are not a machine.
Ladies and gentlemen, the DNC and their allies are not a machine. And this is exactly why the Democrats are in full-blown panic mode as their George Soros-backed candidates get rejected one by one. The Democrats' socialist nightmare has only scared the Dems shitless, and they realize this is not a worthwhile strategy that can actually win on a large scale for them to take back control. The Democratic Party's crisis is a self-inflicted wound from embracing socialist extremes, leading to mass defections that doom figures like Mamdani and Fateh. And we've seen how in every single state tracking party affiliation, Democrats have lost ground to Republicans since 2020. And this isn't just a blip, folks. It's a voter stampede away from policies like defund the police and open borders, with twice as many Pennsylvanians switching to GOP as the reverse. Cities like NYC, New York City, and Minneapolis are waking up to the invasion narrative, rejecting Soros-funded radicals in polls showing independents fleeing the left. Now, all we need to do is try and get Boston and Seattle on board. Share with me your thoughts, and let's catch up right back here tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. Stay safe, and God bless.